This is Joe Pugh for IFLTV. Delighted to be joined over Zoom by Mr. International Jet Setter himself, Gareth A. Davies. Gareth, you're back on home turf after
Yeah,
a
it's
few weeks
lovely
away.
to be back. Watching the end of the cricket series, did a bit of the Oval on Sunday. Watched the cricket yesterday for a little bit. Getting revved up and ready for Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, Moza Tama, Dillian White, David Adelaide, Philip Hergovic. It's a kind of weird time where there's a lot building, but there's also not a lot going on. But no, we need some resolutions of who's going where in the heavy division, if anything.
Yeah, let's start with that then, because we just had a brief discussion off camera, and I know the whole narrative was let's wait and see what happens with Usyk and Dubois. That's happened now. And there's a lot of fighters in certainly the top 15 in the heavyweight divisions who haven't got a fight pending scheduled in yet. So is it a case of we've got next week, we see what happens, how Dillian White and Moses Atama plays out, and then we schedule for the rest of the year? What's going on in the heavyweight division, in your opinion?
Weren't we saying that 2.5 weeks ago when Daniel Dubois was about to step in against Alexander Usyk? Well, look, the let's see what's being talked about at the moment. Tony Yoka's just been signed by Queensberry, so is that a move to get him in the ring with Anthony Joshua as a tune-up fight, or is that too risky as a tune-up fight for Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury? Is all this talk from Jake Paul and Nikisa Bidarian and Eddie Hearn true that there is meat on the bones here, that they really are going to put those two in a ring together next year? I don't think that should happen myself. I'm not an advocate of that fight. I think it's too dangerous for Jake Paul. What's happening with Joseph Parker? Is he going to have to, maybe when the WBO becomes vacant, is he going to face Moses, who's the number one in the WBO rankings, if Moses beats Dillian White? Where does that leave Ajit Kabayel? Maybe to fight Philip Hergovic if he beats David Adelaide. Are we going to see Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk 3? It's still I think that's still a commercial behemoth. Are we going to see Joshua and Fury? I'm not sure at the moment. I want it. I want it more than Fury Usyk 3, but I can almost see one before the other. Joseph Parker isn't going to get the Usyk fight by the look of it because of that press release or tweet or X comment from Riyadh season. Ring Magazine and Turki Al Sheikh want Moses Itauma and Alexander Usyk to fight, so maybe that happens in the spring next year if Moses beats Dillian and then Parker. So Dillian, Parker, and then Usyk for Moses Itauma. That's going to take an awful lot of money to get Usyk in a ring, but maybe that's the way the division goes. These matchups need to be made. We can't go into something's going to have to shift between the end of next week and September, in my view, early September, to dictate that schedule and calendar for the last 3 or 4 months of the year, or 3 months, September, October, November, for the last 4 months of the year, and then into the spring, or into the winter rather, because we need to know what's happening for 6 months. Who else there is in the equation? Does Daniel Dubois come back? He probably won't fight for a while. Dubois, Bacoli, Dubois, Wardley. That's the way I see the division at the moment. Am I missing anyone out there?
Derek Chisora's got a great ranking for his last fight. We don't know what he's going to do.
Derek against Dubois for me.
I've heard a few people say that, Gareth.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Obviously, Derek's got a great position with the IBF, and it'd put Daniel straight back in there. That's a blockbuster fight for the UK, really, isn't it?
It's a blockbuster fight. That's the way to put it. You could do that. I don't know if Derek would take that right now. Maybe it's a little bit like Dillian White taking Moses Itauma. but Derek certainly needs a big name. I don't think Derek and Usyk would be particularly big or receive particularly well. Um, Obviously, you know, he's not going to fight Anthony Joshua. Um, Big Baby Miller. Um, after our little time in Turkey when they in Turkey, Istanbul, Turkey, when they had that little contretemps, as I'd call it, that was thoroughly entertaining. Um, but yeah, look, there's 10 guys we've mentioned there who all need matchups. So let's get the clappers on. I mean, a lot of those guys are with Frank Warren as well. So let's see. And Johnny Fisher's changed trainer as well, which, I mean, obviously he's not in that mix, but just including the heavyweights right now.
Yeah, look, a lot to unpack there. I'll start with Frank Warren's latest acquisition to the heavyweight division in Tony Yoka. And that come at a time after a couple of days where there was rumours of a potential AJ fight as AJ looks to return to the ring for the first time since September later this year. Um, is that fight does that fight whet the appetite of the British public, the standard AJ Anthony Joshua viewer that tune in through pubs, pay-per-views? Is that fight big enough for AJ?
One word, no, it's not. I saw Tony Yoka on TalkSport this week, saying that Joshua should choose him and fight him. It's two former Olympic super heavyweight champions from 2012, obviously AJ, and 2016 Tony Yoka. But when you've got, I think it's a favourable fight for Anthony Joshua in terms if you want him to get the right results. Yoka's had an up and down career. They both won a few. They both lost a few. Obviously, Joshua's had a much more successful career than Yoka, but it's a big step down for him in many ways. Not as far down to plummet down to Jake Paul, but I don't. I think if Joshua were to lose, then the fight we all want to see, which is him and Tyson Fury, is probably lost. Whereas if Fury fought Alexander Usyk for a third time, the AJ fight isn't lost, I don't think. So if it happens, it happens. But it's not one. If it happens, there's still. If AJ's only got a couple of fights left, why is this one of the fights? Huh? Because I think he should be in big fights. If it's being regarded as a tune-up fight for him, and that's what he needs, then fair enough. I mean, there was talk about, at one time, maybe 6, 7 weeks ago, of Fury fighting Kubrat Pulev as a warm-up, if you remember. That's been whispered in the background. So it's a similar kind of thing, even though there's a lot more miles on the clock in Kubrat Pulev than there are on Tony Yoka.
Yeah, let's go with Tyson then. He done an interview with Sky Sports this week where he made a U-turn on his decision to step out of retirement. Was it tongue in cheek? Do you still expect him back in the ring at some point early next year, whether that be a tune-up or a big fight?
Yeah, I do. I think the money's got to be right. I think the opponent's got to be right. And I also think if you're interviewing Tyson Fury when the Gypsy King's running, not him, but his horse, and he's there at Donny Races, which is a brilliant place, by the way. I've been there with William Hill before at Doncaster Races when they were sponsoring things. It's a brilliant place to spend the day. He's at Donny Races with Paris, members of his family, Spencer Brown. I can't see him giving an interview where he's saying, I'm just about to come back and this is going on. He's playing. He's playing with the interviewer. He's playing with the guys who were there filming him. I'll have a bit of fun with this. He'll have been going, you know what he's like. Look, there is stuff going on behind the scenes. They are talking about a 3-fight deal. Turki Al-Sheikh does want to get him back in the ring. He wants him in against Anthony Joshua. Wants that fight to happen. So I don't think. I think it's a faux retirement again. Did he really come out of retirement? Um, in truth, I think all that happened, well, not all that happened, but what happened was obviously Turki Al Sheikh filmed him, got him in touch with him rather when he was saw him being filmed in Istanbul at the IBA press conference, and got some things underway. At that point, I think they were talking potentially about a three-fight run, Kubrat Pulev or a warm-up or a tune-up fight, Anthony Joshua, and then if he came through both of those, maybe Alexander Usyk next year in the summer or later in the year. But that's where it sits with him. Right now, I don't think he's planning to fight this year. But again, we say it all the time. Those of us that know him and know how he works, that could change in 3 weeks' time, where he gets to September and he just goes, you know what? I fancy another jiggle at this. I fancy another jiggle. The hands are ready. Let's get back. Come on, Spartans. Let's get back into camp. And, whatever anyone says, regardless of how they're umming and ahhing about it, he against Alexander Usyk and he against, I'm talking about the Gypsy King against Alexander Usyk, or the Gypsy King against Anthony Joshua, are still commercial behemoths. They are massive, massive fights because people will and ah, and then once the fight's signed, there's a few press conferences, people want to get their ticket. The casuals will want to be there for the night, and I was there moment, and it's a huge fight again, Wembley Stadium, Riyadh season, wherever it's going to be.
Talking of commercial behemoths, we spoke to Barry Hearn last week, and
I
he
saw
said
it.
to us that he believes AJ versus Jake Paul is a bigger fight than AJ Tyson Fury.
Well, it's as big as I see where he's coming from. I mean, commercially, Barry's right. I mean, Eddie would probably tell you the same. It's why they're calling out Anthony Joshua. It's why Anthony Joshua and his team are nibbling at the bait, because it is bait. It's clickbait, and it's bait for the big fish. We would watch it, and millions would watch it, because we can't believe we're seeing it. It's a bit like when Jake Paul stepped in against Mike Tyson. People suspended the reality of how old Mike Tyson was, and lived like piranhas off those viral clips of him, those 15-second clips where he was destroying the body bag of Rafael Cordero in the gyms. And in truth, whether you believe it or not, Mike was pretty old when he stepped into the ring last November, and he was also probably, aware of the game that this is with Jake Paul. Whether Anthony Joshua could play the same game, I'm not sure. Whether he could stand off Jake Paul and not hit him with left hooks and uppercuts and booming right hands and a big jab, I don't know. But in levels, they are worlds apart, oceans apart. Jake Paul is an area level fighter, an area level champion, potentially at cruiserweight, let alone heavyweight. And Anthony Joshua is a world level fighter. Yes, he's been vulnerable at times, but I've got to say, Joe, obviously I would watch it and I would work on it, but I would be concerned over the health of Jake Paul, and concerned if anyone in the world any commission in the world were to license that bout, unless there were certain conditions in it, i.e. that Anthony Joshua is not allowed to hit him, and he's got to have his hands behind his back most of the time, because he probably still wins. So it's not a fight I really want to see. If it does happen, it'll be enormous. But it's probably, Jake Paul's gone to the edge of the cliff with faded MMA stars and faded boxing stars and aged boxing stars, but this is jumping off the cliff for me, a step too far.
Is Jake Paul better than Francis Ngannou?
Of course he's not. Would you put Jake Paul in with Francis Ngannou?
No, but he's on
What would you
paper he's
feel?
more of an experienced boxer at the moment.
Yeah, it's a very good analogy with Francis Ngannou because that's what you think about when it's certainly what I think about. Look at what AJ laid waste to Francis Ngannou with that right hand that started in the east and came all the way through the poles to the west. No, but it did, didn't it? It did the whole journey. It went all the way through and poleaxed the great Ngannou. I'd be terrified for Jake Paul putting him in with Francis Ngannou. You know, Ngannou will probably stand there like this, going, "Come on, hit me." You know, and and as the punches bounced off him like wasps on a windscreen, going down the freeway, the Jake Paul's face would change. No, he's not better than Francis Ngannou as a striker. Certainly as a striker,
Mm.
in terms of his hands. Um, I just don't. I mean, am I wrong? Am I wrong that it's kind? There's something wrong about that fight. That it doesn't stack up because Joshua's an active, dangerous finisher as a heavyweight. Yes, he's had his vulnerabilities. He never gives up. You could never label him a guy that gives up. He fights till he's nailed to the canvas or stopped by other people. So I don't know, but there's still. I have a feeling the fight may happen if other things don't occur for Joshua.
What's more likely, AJ versus Jake Paul or AJ versus Tyson Fury?
AJ versus Tyson Fury, but
Is more likely to happen,
well,
yeah?
I don't know actually. Thinking about it, because there is a there's probably an easy 50 million for Joshua to earn against Jake Paul. Obviously, there is one tiny. I very rarely say there's 0% chance of him winning, of him losing. Um, but I do really feel with Jake Paul, there's 0% chance of him winning against Anthony Joshua. But yeah, that's how I feel when I see that, and I don't think I've ever said that about a fight. Um, but like you say, when you think of are we going to see AJ and Fury in a ring? It's a lot harder to get that fight made. So maybe you're right. Maybe what you're suggesting is has legs. That it's more likely that it's more likely Paul Joshua or Joshua Paul than it is Fury Joshua Fury.
Last one on the
You got your
heavyweight
headline there. Look,
division.
squeeze that one out of me.
Last one on the heavyweight division, Gareth. We haven't spoke to you since the day after the night before of USYK Dubois 2. What have you made of certain stories that have come out in the aftermath with Daniel Dubois with a party slash gathering? The fact he turned up 90 minutes before the fight. And yeah, the general preparation of Daniel Dubois and the narrative that is being pushed by certain people about his preparation for that fight.
Well, I mean, I'll stick to my guns on this and keep, consistent. My feeling was we were watching brilliance from Alexander Usyk. Daniel Dubois was very dangerous early on in that fight. I'll deal with the gathering and the party and the timings in a sec, but for me, Alexander Usyk was so brilliant that he does merit again conversations after the two victories over Tyson Fury. Anyone you talk to about sparring or fighting Tyson Fury, they tell you how dangerous he is and how difficult he is and how awkward he is to fight. And look what Usyk did over two fights, and in the second fight he was even better, which is what happens with him. He gets better in the second fight against someone thus far in his career. You could see that he sensed the danger of Dubois early on, and he closed into the space. He smothered all Dubois' work. He demoralized him. He decalibrated him. He broke him down, and then he went for the kill. And he did all those things like an assassin, like he is in the ring, from that southpaw stance, finding angles, head movement, body feints, footwork, picking his punches clinically. It was almost a punch perfect performance. Daniel tried his heart out, but I think he got broken and demoralized. And boxing's not like other sports. It's very hard to come back when you're up against someone so good. I was working with Dave Allen in the week for TalkSport, and he was saying, I've sparred Usyk, and after a round, you're thinking, this guy's just making me look stupid. He's just popping me, and I can't get near him, and then he's gone, and that was in my head during the fight. You could see that Usyk was acutely aware of the dangers of Daniel Dubois. Eddie Hearn did a very good analysis with you guys afterwards. I think it was with you guys. It might have been with one of the other teams on YouTube, where he said, and I completely agreed with him how he'd seen the fight, that by round 4, Usyk had demoralised Dubois so much that he'd broken him. And Usyk knows that Daniel's an on-top fighter. And he didn't let him get on top during the fight, as he did against AJ, as he has against other people in the past. So, yes, you can make a case that Daniel was looking at the referee in that second count and was waiting to be counted out. He was done. He was done. He will come back again and win a world title. He will come back again. He will live to fight another day. And that's the kind of guy he is. He's not a guy that's going to keep fighting till he's unconscious. AJ's more like that. So in the fighters code, if Tony Bellew, if Carl Froch, if Derek Chisora, who are very resonant voices in our sport, as you know, very strong voices, very honest and critical voices, if they want to say that he quit, because quit's a very strong word for me, it's not a word semantically that I like, because they come back and fight another day. If they want to see it like that, that's fine. But I just put it down to the brilliance of Usyk on the night. Now, the pre-fight gathering, the only thing I have an issue with is if it's true that his father Stan was saying, right, I'm withdrawing my son from the fight, if all the guys can't come in, that's not right. He had a gathering pre-Anthony Joshua and that didn't affect him. If they feel they need to fill the mind of Daniel Dubois before a fight, because that's what he needs, I think his father knows him. And I think that's their prerogative. Let's see what the fallout is, the aftermath is when they investigate it through the promoter and the trainer and talk it through afterwards. But I think it was just a big talking point because people were disappointed in Daniel's performance. But that's honestly the way I see it.
Away from the heavyweight division, Gareth, and just closing up this interview, I watched your TalkSport show on Saturday night with Sam Jones, and you spoke about Joshua Buatsi signing with Frank Warren, and what's next for Ben Shalom and Boxer? We've kind of expected an announcement imminently over the past few weeks. Nothing has come yet, and he's got a deep, deep stable of British stars, Ben Whittaker, Lauren Price. The list goes on. Fraser
Callum
Clark,
Simpson,
exactly.
Caroline Dubois,
Adam Azim.
Adam Azim. There's a very, very decent developing stable there that he created.
And I think this all started from the Queensbury stream down in Bournemouth the other day when Hamza was having a little bit of fun with Adam Azim. But is it a cause for concern for Ben Shalom
Yeah,
and
well,
Boxer?
I think Ben Shalom and Boxer do need to get a wriggle on. They've got a stable. They can include Fran Hennessy, who's a rising young female star, as well. Yeah, there's 7, 8, 9 fighters there. Fraser Clark's in his stable as well, I think, who's about to fight Jamie TKV. There's there is concern because you can't wait in this game. People move on. As you say, Joshua Buatsi has already jumped ship, and Queensberry are making big noise about him. There's several big fights from Anthony Yardo, who's back in the same stable after a period outside, which we never really understood too much, didn't make sense. So, yeah, I mean, we're hearing BBC iPlayer. That's not confirmed yet. That's a that's a decent move in my view, as long as the BBC put the push behind it. You know, they're very strong on women's sports, so they'll probably push the women's side of it. It depends what the funding's like there. You know, it's not a commercial broadcast network. You know, it's very much it's auntie, isn't it? So it's a shame that the Sky deal is over, because also we want to see Sky staying in the sport as well, because they are a brilliant broadcast team on there. They've done a brilliant job for 3 decades. Don't want to lose them to boxing. Boxing doesn't want to lose them. I hope they do continue. Yeah, he's got to get a move on. He's got to get a move on, because he doesn't want to start that stable from scratch again. You know, looking at Olympians from 2026 and or 2028, and having to go out and re-sign lots of guys and girls when he's got, like you say, a stable that really does put very good cards together. They're not always top tier, but they're certainly middling and upwards. Whitaker being one of those big names there as well. So yeah, got to get a wriggle on. It is of concern because we do want competition, because our two principal promoters, Warren and Hearn, Queensberry and Matchroom, are both on DAZN at the moment. And whether you like it or not, even though they are in competition, they're also in cahoots. They're also in coalition. So yeah, we need competition.
Excellent, Gareth. I think that just about covers everything, and I shall catch up with you next week and roll on Riyadh, yeah?
Roll on Riyadh, baby. Roll on Riyadh. I've got Dillian White's still there after 5 or 6. It's going to be a very, very, very good fight, and he's going to be testing Moses. But I'm picking Moses for a stoppage by the halfway point, with full respect to Dillian. I just think this kid Moses is something special, but I do hope we find out something about him in this fight from Dillian, who's one of the most experienced heavyweights contenders right now. So let's see.
Certainly. What about not about 11 days to go? So, Gareth, thank you very much, and yeah, I'll catch up with you soon, my friend.